Last night's Democratic debate was an unmitigated disaster, and I'm pretty sure I said those exact words after the other Democratic debate last week. But it's true. Many people are calling it a raging dumpster fire. Tons of media outlets are saying it was horrible, with Democrats shouting over each other, no one getting out cohesive points, Bernie Sanders defending Cuba, causing absolute chaos for the Democratic Party. Look, the Democrats have been in a state of civil war for some time now with the insurgency campaigns of far left candidates and people like Bernie Sanders. So we know that they're freaking out. And I'm not sure how many more videos I can make because every single day a news story comes out about how Democrats are panicking and chaos and freaking out. And the only one who seems to act like everything's okay is Nancy Pelosi, who quite literally says Bernie Sanders is fine. This is fine. Just like that little dog in that comic where the fires are raging all around them. Well, following last night's debate, Donald Trump is gloating, saying, just give me an opponent, saying it's chaos, and they were all miserable. Some writers are now questioning why the moderates won't just drop out, all thinking they're the saving grace of the Democratic Party. But I think they're actually doing this to stop Bernie Sanders, which says to me, they are prepared to lose November 2020 to Donald Trump if it means stopping Bernie Sanders. And a lot of people seem to recognize that. As of right now, Donald Trump's approval rating is higher than it has ever been, in the aggregate, no less. So I have to talk about how, right now, Donald Trump's approval rating is this high. But after his inauguration, it was 46% in the aggregate. Today, it's 46.3. It has never been higher. There's a new poll from Rasmussen saying that Trump will crush Bernie in a head-to-head matchup. The economy is booming. And as I stated this morning on my second channel, I think Americans aren't paying attention to any of this. The only people who care about this right now are culture war people and politicos like us. The regular people don't care what Democrats have to say. And that's why voter turnout is kind of meh, just not coming out real well for most people. Bernie's not lighting up new voters. The Democrats know he's bad for them, and they will stop at nothing to prevent him from winning. So here's what we'll do. First, we'll take a look at how Donald Trump is gloating, and I got to say, rightly so. We'll take a look at some of this debate performance and why I think these moderates are actually staying in. I think they're trying to stop Bernie by any means necessary. And I'll wrap up with some of the outrage from the establishment and how some people are pointing out Trump is going to win. Now, listen, as if you needed another video from me talking about how Democrats are in chaos and how Donald Trump is going to win. I don't know how many times I can say it. I really don't. But every day, that's the news. I have these stories from a couple hours ago, from today, from just last night, and they're saying the same thing we're hearing over and over and over again. I can't tell you why other than it must be true. The Democratic House is on fire. Donald Trump is laughing and twirling his cane all the way to re-election, and there is nothing anyone can do to stop it. The Democrats are too concerned about putting the fire out in their own house to be able to do anything. So Trump's going to win. I mean, maybe not. Maybe the hubris will hold him back, but let's read. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you would like to support my work. There's several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do, share this video. Maybe this is the 800th time I've made the same video, but with the latest news updates. So at least that's fair, right? But maybe some people haven't seen me talk about it yet, and you want to share it to help me grow my channel. But also around 30% or so of people who watch my videos don't actually subscribe. And you should if you like the videos. Click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you will get more videos like this because YouTube's actually suppressing political commentary and funneling all of the people who watch me to Fox News. So if you think I'm better, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let's first read about Trump taunting the Democrats, which admittedly isn't the most important news, but I do think is important as we talk about the context of why the Democrats are actually sabotaging themselves, sort of, in an effort to stop Bernie. Fox News reports President Trump on Wednesday taunted the Democratic presidential primary field for their crazy, chaotic debate in South Carolina the night before, ripping into the major candidates and pleading for them to just give me an opponent. Crazy, chaotic Democratic debate last night, he tweeted. Fake news said Biden did well, even though he said half of our population. Joe Biden actually said 150 million people died since 2007. That's insane. Anyway, then Trump goes on to say Mini Mike was weak. Biden really said that. I'm not kidding. He says Mini Mike was weak and unsteady, but helped greatly by his many commercials, which are not supposed to be allowed during a debate. Pocahontas was mean and undisciplined, mostly aiming at crazy Bernie and Mini Mike. They don't know how to handle her, but I know she is a chocker. Steyer was a disaster who, along with Minnie, are setting records in dollars per vote. Just give me an opponent. He literally just calls Mike Bloomberg mini. That's it. Trump was responding to Tuesday night's debate ahead of this Saturday's primary in South Carolina and next week's Super Tuesday contests. One by one, he took shots at former Vice President Biden, Bloomberg, Warren. We get it. He started with jabs with a reference to a debate gaffe by Biden. Yeah, we don't need a play-by-play of the tweets. Thanks, Fox News. But Trump is gloating, and for good reason. Take a look at this job approval rating. 46.3%. This is an archive I just saved. It is the highest Trump has ever seen. And in a new poll from Rasmussen, Trump thumps Sanders in head-to-head matchup. You see, the Democrats are in absolute chaos for a variety of reasons. The insurgency candidacy of Bernie Sanders, but the overzealous nature of the progressives who are just being led by the Pied Piper of Sanders' free everything campaign into a trap. It's happened before with McGovern and Richard Nixon, and I've talked about this. Bernie Sanders says, I don't know how we'll pay for it, but you will get free health care in college, and it can't be done. You know, people talk about, but Denmark does it. Well, Pete Buttigieg made a good point. Denmark didn't abolish private health care. So no, these other countries in Europe have private systems. These are radical positions that won't work. Unfortunately, a large group of Democrat voters who don't really pay attention are hearing these things and saying, I'll take free stuff. And there you have it. The Democratic Party knows it can't be done. They know you won't win on it because there are a decent amount of Democrats, most probably, who are like, that's dumb. You can't do it. It won't work. But now we can see the results in the prediction models for what happened after last night's debate. And I think it's fair to say, even the algorithms agree. The Democratic Party is just a house on fire. The chaos doesn't even describe the sheer absurdity of what's happening. So Bernie Sanders and no one, I kid you not, quote, no one, have been bouncing back and forth for the top position of who wins the Democratic primary. See, a lot of moderates are running right now, and they're splitting up votes. But let me explain that in a second. Bernie Sanders was predicted to win yesterday. After his debate performance, no one is predicted to win because they are in sheer chaos. And I saw this opinion piece in the Washington Post, and I got to admit, it's kind of dumb. I don't understand what this woman's trying to say. It says, we must stop Bernie Sanders, and I see no path forward but for my opponents to drop out. Now, I think the article is kind of dumb, but I can respect the sentiment. You see, you got Steyer, Bloomberg, Buttigieg, Klobuchar all saying, you all should drop out so that I get your votes and I win. What this woman for the Washington Post doesn't realize as she writes this tongue-in-cheek article saying everyone else should drop out and I should remain, because they're all doing that. What she doesn't realize is that what the Democrats are doing is on purpose. They're absolutely sabotaging their own party to weed out Sanders and his progressives, and they know they will lose. That's my opinion. That's what I'm seeing. But I'll explain why. See, this Washington Post article is kind of a surface level view of what's really going on, thinking it's a bunch of hard-headed, moderates who refuse to back down, and it's splitting up the centrist vote. Let me explain what's really going on. Take a look at 270 to win. They say there are 3,979 pledged delegates in 2020. It will take a minimum of 1,991 to win the Democratic nomination on the first ballot. 771 automatic delegates, super delegates, will not participate on the first ballot unless the nomination is uncontested. This is a significant change from 2016. The map below shows the number of delegates each state will send to the Democratic convention. You can view pledged or total delegates, click a state, yada, yada. So on the second ballot, you need 2,375.5. Do you get now why these moderates aren't bowing out? We can see here on the forecast model that you need a certain amount of delegates to pass. The reason no one is number one is because Bernie is going to come in just shy of 1,991. Now do you get it? With Elizabeth Warren, Biden, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, and all these other Democrats in the race, they know they're not going to win. But if they can take away just a tiny fraction of Bernie's votes, he won't cross that line to get enough delegates to win. And then the super delegates can vote for Bloomberg or Buttigieg or whoever it is they want. If Bernie doesn't come in, then the super delegates can shift things. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen. It may be contested. I think if it's a contested convention, people might be able to vote for whoever they want, but it doesn't matter. This is giving a huge opportunity to Bloomberg, who has been planning this the whole time. Politico reported Bloomberg has been meeting with people behind the scenes to actually plan for a contested convention to steal it from Bernie. Bloomberg won't beat Trump, but he can beat Bernie. I don't know if he will beat Bernie, but he can. But it's not just that. Now we move on to this. This is actually pretty interesting news. One of the reasons why I think the moderates are staying in for this reason is because of all of the other efforts we've seen from the Democratic Party. And they cheated in 2016. Why wouldn't they do it again? The establishment does not want a socialist to take over. They know they can't win. And Bernie Sanders actually defended on the debate stage what he said about Cuba, now tripling down. And so here's what we get. 2 Florida Democrats are suing to keep Bernie Sanders off the primary ballot. They want him out. Their argument, in my opinion, is actually kind of sound. What they're saying is that Bernie Sanders is currently an independent in the Senate. He is not a member of the Democratic Party. Therefore, he can't run as a Democrat. The Florida Democratic Party disagrees. They're actually saying no. Let's read a little bit. They say in a lawsuit filed Monday in Circuit Court in Leon County, the plaintiffs ask that Sanders be disqualified from the Democratic primary because he's a declared independent. The Florida Democratic Party's labeled the complaint ridiculous, and the Sanders campaign called it spurious. The complaint also seeks to prevent state election officials from counting any votes Sanders has already received. More than 244,000 Democrats have already voted by mail in Florida. Karen Givers, a former circuit court judge representing Frank Bach and George Brown, both Tallahassee Democrats, said Sanders should not be allowed on the Democratic ballot. Sanders caucuses with Democrats in the Senate, but lists himself as an independent and has raised money in a Senate campaign account as an independent, according to the lawsuit. Florida is a closed primary state, yet here we have someone who is an independent on the Democratic ballot. You can't be an independent and be a member of the party. I actually think that makes sense. Now that I read it, I see what they're saying. If Bernie Sanders is raising money and saying he's an independent, he's actively independent, declaring an independent, and they're a closed primary state, well, I don't think that's really fair for him to be running. But not that it really matters. What's really going on and whether or not he'll win, it has to do with the comments that he made on Cuba defending Fidel Castro's literacy programs, which were actually re-education programs, but sure, literacy programs, which has caused uproar in Florida. Now, I talked about this yesterday. If you want to check that out, it's on my channel. I'm not going to rehash most of this. Suffice it to say, the Democrats are absolutely in chaos. And I know I've said it 50 million times. From Fox News, Bernie Sanders rattled by debate crowd pushback on his praise of Cuba, Frank Lunt said. Bernie Sanders tripled down on his defense of the good things he says about dictatorships, and he started getting booed, and he seemed taken aback. And this is, to me, shows the completely, just how out of touch Bernie Sanders is. He was shocked to find that people don't like it when you praise dictatorships. What world does this man live in? Well, he honeymooned in Moscow, and he praised the Soviets back then. He praised China a few months ago. He praised China again. He's praising Cuba. And of course, he's saying, I denounce authoritarianism, but they did do some good things. And lo and behold, people are upset by it and booing him, and he's surprised to see it. Now, I did mention this, but I want to move now into why I think Donald Trump's going to win. Look, I know you've probably heard me say it a million times, but there are some more developments as we're coming off of this debate. First, as I mentioned earlier, or for those in the podcast, it's going to be in reverse order. You Google search debate disaster, and there are a ton of articles all saying the same thing. South Carolina was an unmitigated disaster. But this brings me to Donald Trump winning back Never-Trumpers. See, the Never-Trumpers are a contingent of establishment Republicans who were excised from the party because Trump's the populist. They then joined the ranks of the Democratic establishment to prop up a crony elite, and now that's not working either. I am going to laugh, and I am already getting my popcorn ready for when these Never-Trumpers come crawling back to Trump in fear of socialism. But I love this. I love this thing I Googled Never Bernie. This is what comes up. NY Mag on the 14th of February says, why there is no Democratic Never Bernie movement. And just below it, it says, the Never Bernie apocalypse is coming, Dem insiders warn. And Never Bernie Sanders Democrats race to make up for lost time. February 1st, both of those stories came out. The media is fractured too, but the pro-Bernie people are pretending like there's no Never Bernie movement, and there is. Democrats are never Bernie Democrats. They are moderates. They do not want a socialist, and they are fleeing, unfortunately for Bernie Sanders, to Donald Trump and the Republicans. And the never Trumpers are going to come crawling back crying, except for like Joe Walsh, if you know who that guy is. He was like, well, never Trump means never Trump, so I guess I'll vote for the socialist. And a lot of people are rolling their eyes like, dude, really? You really? So here we can, well, I'll say it for the 100th time. This is a story from Politico, but there's a quote I wanted to read. Sanders sends Democratic establishment into panic mode. In 30 plus years of politics, I've never seen this level of doom, said one prominent centrist Democrats, which I wanted to highlight because I want to show you that there really is a never Bernie movement. Now, of course, as the Washington Examiner says in this story, never Bernie movement failing miserably. That's right. They're trying. It's not working. But the convention is still a few months away, and we will see what happens. I also want to point out as an aside, we are 4 months out from the primary race in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district. It's going to be huge. If you're a moderate Democrat and you do not like what she is doing, and you don't show up for this and she wins, it sends a powerful message. The far left is taking over, has taken over, and is going to gain more ground in the future. But if the moderate Democrats show up and vote Ocasio-Cortez out in the primary, then she's done. She's gone. The moderates come back in and she is out of Congress. The squad will be shattered. We'll see what happens during the Democratic National Convention with the nominating process. But this is different. It's not a real election for the most part. The DNC is a private organization. They do whatever they want. It's going to be interesting to see who wins against Donald Trump come November. But I do believe that Donald Trump is going to win back the Never Trumpers. One of the reasons Democrats are so shocked and adamant about Bernie Sanders, adamant about removing him, is that, of course, Never Trumpers will go back to Trump. Of course, never Bernie Democrats will go to Trump if it is Sanders. Sure, Sanders can light up a fringe faction of Twitter activists, but Bernie was shocked. The audience booed him when he praised dictators. He clearly has no idea what's going on. He has invigorated active Democrats, but not new voters and not moderates and not independents. They're going to vote for Trump. The Washington Examiner writes, against Bernie Sanders, GOP could persuade never Trumpers by acknowledging Trump's faults. If they finally give a little bit and start saying, look, we know Trump is bad in these ways, we'll do better, I think they're going to win the moderates. I think they will easily win the moderates. So that should be obvious. The Week, we see from theweek.com, we see this story. Just how risky is it to nominate Bernie Sanders? Well, they basically make this point. They open the article by saying Democrats are freaking out that Bernie Sanders, the tentative frontrunner for their party's nomination, may not only lose to Trump in November, but also reverse their midterm election gains in the suburbs. The latest bit of evidence is an internal poll circulated by rival Michael Bloomberg's campaign suggesting just that. Bloomberg internal poll claims Bernie would sink down ballot Dems. They're not just going to lose the presidency. They will lose literally everything. Now at the debate, this one's kind of funny. Michael Bloomberg actually said he bought the Democrats. He did. He said he bought the 40 or so Democrats that won and flipped those Trump districts. He's like, I got them. And then he got dragged for it. This is what the Democratic Party has become. I'm sorry. And, you can rag on Trump. You can hate him all you want. But the Democrats are a blob of chaos and corruption. Michael Bloomberg accidentally saying he bought the Democrats. He's buying his way to the debate stage. They have nothing sound to offer. And the best unity they can muster is this tiny fraction of fringe far leftists rallying around Bernie. And Bernie's a candidate who doesn't understand why he was booed for praising Cuba. How is he supposed to win 65 million plus people? I think Trump's going to get 40 plus states. We'll see. But we can see. Don't take it from the political world. Let's step back for a second. From Fox News, Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary tells The View hosts that Trump will win re-election due to low unemployment. And he says that it's not even about, being pro or con. He says, look, I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not pro or con anybody. I'm just saying I'm an investor. I have to think about policy. And I think the chance that Bernie is going to turn this country into a communist country is zero. But he goes on, he basically says in history, let me start from the top. Here's the quote. Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary predicted on Tuesday that President Trump would win. In history, there's never been, in modern times ever, a president of either party that's ever lost their mandate when unemployment was under 4%. Now, listen, I don't think, he says, I also don't think Bernie's going to turn this one into a communist country. Okay, we get it. But this is the point I was making earlier. In order for people to pay attention to politics, they have to be concerned about political issues. Most people don't want to be. They want to wake up, go to work, make money, and focus on their hobbies and their passions and their friends and their families. When the economy is bad and they're wondering why they can't get what they need, they freak out and they turn to politicians. And all of a sudden you see Democrats pop up, offering, whispering sweet nothings into their ears. Democrats like Bernie Sanders saying free college, free healthcare, cancel student loan debt, all these magical things that he's going to bling into existence just with the magic wand. It won't happen. He talks about his wealth tax. Him and Warren love to lie about this because either I can't imagine they've never read a single piece of paper talking about a wealth tax, but on the surface, it literally makes no sense. Look, I'm not an economist, but here's their plan for the wealth tax. Here's what they say. If you've got, Jeff Bezos with $130 billion, then he has to pay $7 billion a year. The problem is his net worth is based on stock and other hard assets that he doesn't or can't liquefy. How will he pay $7 billion? Not only that, how will you pay for these programs with the wealth tax if you tax the wealthy out of existence? On the surface, it makes no sense. They are promising things. They don't even know what the cost will be. And I think Warren actually criticized Bernie for this too. In a 60 Minutes interview with Anderson Cooper, he says, I can't tell you all the nickels and dimes. I don't know for sure. How are you going to actually implement programs you know what they cost? Could you imagine if your roommate was like, hey, you want to go to the store and buy a widescreen TV? Maybe. How much does it cost? Split it with me and we'll buy it. And you're like, wait, but I don't know what the cost is. What if I don't have enough money? Don't worry about it. We'll figure that out later. And then he goes and buys it on a credit card and you have no idea how much you owe. That literally makes no sense. So yeah, Donald Trump is probably going to win for everything that was said earlier. And he's laughing about it. Every day the news comes out and they say the same thing. I ask for your forgiveness. This story from Politico, just a few days ago on the 23rd, Sanders sends Democratic establishment into panic mode. Gee, that sounds familiar. Sounds like the title of half a dozen of my videos in the past month. We had there was one of the worst weeks Democrats ever faced following the impeachment acquittal. And they were freaking out and in full-on panic. Democrats were quitting the party. Pelosi ripped up Trump's State of the Union speech. It was sheer panic. And since then, I've actually just fallen into this hole where it's like, well, every single day when I open Politico, CNN, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, all of these outlets, they're all saying the same thing. Democrats freak out. Democrats freak out. And that's it. I don't think there's going to be anything really substantive for a while. So if you're interested in hearing about Democrats freaking out, stay tuned for more videos every day at 4 p.m. Now, of course, I do talk about other things on my second channel. I'll have more videos at 6 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews. I'll talk about, look, there's a lot of things that YouTube doesn't let me talk about. So I'll wrap it up by saying this. If you come to this channel and you are thinking to yourself, why is it that Tim always talks about politicians, politics, and elections? I'll tell you, it's because YouTube literally only lets me talk about these things on this channel. I'm not exaggerating. They hard shadow ban all of my content. If you go to my other channels, Timcast IRL and Timcast News, you'll see literally everything else. So it's not that I don't talk about these things, is that they're kind of just walled off from each other because YouTube literally shadow bans content on this channel. Don't ask me why. They don't like me. But I'll leave it there. I'm sure tomorrow the story will be much the same. Donald Trump's going to come out, say something. His approval rating is going to skyrocket. Bernie Sanders is going to say something. People will boo and jeer. Establishment Democrats will file more lawsuits and we'll all go crying and will all go crying up until November when Donald Trump wins re-election. And then once Trump wins re-election, knowing it's his last term, he's going to he's going to go ham. It's going to be bonkers. He's going to win. It's possible Bernie pulls something out, but I doubt it. I'll leave it there. Stick around. I'll see you all on that other channel at 6 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews. And again, I will see you there.